pals, Insomnia from UnrealTech.net. I've been on vacation for the past bit, sorry about the lack of videos. Today we're going to start on something we've needed for a long time. That is to redo the main menu, Serverlist, and create a character selection screen where we can select our class as well. And that way we can get this game working right out of the box again with our new setups. It seems 4.10 has come out, so I've changed the project to that version. I had some issue opening up blueprints and widgets. I found the fix was just to go to window and reset layout, so if you're having that issue, that's the fix for that in the meantime until they officially fix it. So anyways, start up your project and let's get going again. Remember our motto, create your way. So I'm hoping to have full keyboard and gamepad support, and 4.10 looks like it made some widget and gamepad fixes, so I'm going to check into that before we get too far along, because I'd like to use 3D widgets, but we can use the same widgets for 3D or 2D, so for now that's not a worry. So what we're going to do for now, just to start off, is we're going to create the server list. So under UI, I went ahead and made a server list folder, which I will set to green. And inside of it, I've created two blueprint widgets. Right click, user interface, widget blueprint. I've created a widget server entry, so that'll be an individual server entry, and I've created a widget server list. So this will be the actual server list that lists all the servers. So let's go ahead and open up that one. So let's set up the size of our server list first. So let's go to custom, and we're gonna do a width of something like 1024 with a height of around 800. Like I said, pretty standard nowadays that you're not gonna get anything smaller than that. Next, let's add a vertical box to our canvas panel. And let's select it, and let's set its anchors to all four corners, just like so. And then we simply want to make sure everything's zeroed out so that it fills up the entire space. After that, let's add a size box. We're going to create a title bar here. And inside of the size box, let's create a height override, and let's choose the height that we want. So probably somewhere around, I'm gonna go around 156. Let's try that. Or we'll keep it powers of 2, 128. And then let's add an overlay to it into our size box, like so. And our overlay should be fine just by itself. And then we're gonna want some images. And for now, we'll just use them for colors, but again, we can replace them with actual images in the future when we get to the polishing stage. So let's add an image. Let's add another image as an overlay, and then let's add a text component. So three items overlaid, an image, and then text block. So the first image, this is gonna be our background, and it doesn't need to be a variable, but we want to set it to fill everything, and we want to set its color and opacity. So let's set it to something, we're kind of going with the blue blue gray stuff here, so let's set it to a very dark blue, something like so. And then let's take the other one, and this will be our foreground. Again, it doesn't need to be a variable, no sense cluttering things up. And let's set it to full, and we want some padding on this. So on the bottom, we want 16 pixels of padding, and that will give us this little look here. I think 16 might be a little too much. Let's go 8. Might be too few. We'll go about 12 maybe. You can play with that value, obviously. So that gives us a little bit of padding, and then we'll set our foreground color. So again, kind of this gray, blue, something along these lines. We'll turn down the value a bit, something like so. I think will work just fine. And yeah, that should do it. So let's move on to the text block. Inside the text block, we want it to be horizontally filled, and we want to align it in the center. And we want to center the text, and this is gonna be this is just gonna be the Serverlist title header. So as you know, I put all my placeholders in curly brackets like that. And let's up the size. Looks like about, I don't know, maybe 36 will work. And then we obviously want to bind the text to something. First of all, let's set its color. I think black is gonna look, it doesn't really matter. We can go with either or. We'll give it some shadow then, since white seems to look just fine. We'll go about 3 and 3. There we go, it looks fine. So let's bind, create binding. And this will give us the ability to set whatever text we want here. And now, while I'm thinking of it, actually, we should delete that function and let's save this. We're going to be doing a lot of widget work in the videos to come, so we should probably do some inheritance and parent class usage with our widgets to save us some work, so that we're not spending hours and hours and hours reusing or redoing the same logic over and over and over. So we have our parents folder here where we were playing with some buttons that we could reuse over and over. I'm just gonna set this to a nice orange or something. Let's see here, something like so. So yeah, we were playing with some buttons, and what I want to create is kind of just a basic menu base. So let's create a new folder called menu base. I'm gonna set this to a yellow, I think would be just fine. And inside of there, let's create a new user interface widget blueprint, and let's call this w_menu base. And we're actually going to use this for most of our menus. And of course, we get a crash. So we'll restart. I found 410's very, very unstable when it comes to layouts. Anyways, let's go to the graph of our widget menu base, and we're gonna be doing a lot of functionality in here that we're gonna be reusing over and over. What we want to do first, however, that we're going to use in our server list, let's create a new function called get title text uppercase. So this will take whatever text we assign to a certain menu, and then it will put it to all uppercase letters and return it. So we're going to want an output, which will be text, and this is going to be our return value, we will call, because it is going to be a peer function. And so what we want to do is we want to create a new variable, and we're going to call this title text, and we're going to set that to text. We're going to make sure it's editable, that way we can choose it from any, or we can edit it from any class that we want. It doesn't need a default value, but we're gonna drag it in as a getter, and then we're gonna go to string. We're gonna cast it to a string data type, and then we want to go to upper to convert it to uppercase. And if you want to format your titles in some certain way, you can do it here. So I'm just going to comment this and say takes widgets, set title, and returns it as uppercase. Good place to handle menu title bar formatting here. So we're going to compile and save that. We'll go back to our server list, our widget server list. Of course, crash. Really contemplating going back to 4.9. So what I'm going to do instead is I am just going to make this extremely small because we don't need animations, at least not at the moment. So what we're going to do is we are going to reparent this. We're going to go File, Reparent Blueprint, and we are going to reparent it to widget, where are you? Widget menu base, and you'll see it now has a new parent class. And if we compile and save, let's see, what do we have for compile errors? Text delegate. Yes, because we created that binding, but that doesn't exist anymore, so we just need to remove it. But you'll notice now that we can use that function from that base widget we created, so we can reuse functionality over there. So if we want all of our titles formatted the same way, then we just have that base widget, and we can use its function over and over and over again. So we're just going to select get title text uppercase for our server list here. So we could probably take this size box and call it something like size box title bar, just to keep things nice and organized. Now we're gonna want to be able to filter our servers. So let's add another vertical box right into our vertical box here, like so, and we should be fine on the default values. Now, instead of going and creating one for LAN versus Steam and so on and so forth, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same inheritance setup for buttons such as this, and we're going to continue to reuse this in all of our widgets. So let's start off, let's save this first of all, and let's go to our parents, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this button base. And let's right click and create user interface widget. Let's go W underscore, we'll do something like buttons base. And we'll save, we'll open that up. And then let's go ahead and right click, and actually what we'll have to do is right click, create another widget blueprint, which we will call W underscore, we'll go menu options. We'll go menu options, since it's gonna allow us to do more than one. Let's open that up and let's do the file reparent, and we're gonna reparent this to the button base. So where are you? Buttons base, there we are. So you can see it's parented again. I'm going to save this since it's so crashy today. And so let's set a default size. So let's go to custom, and we'll go about 1024 again, because that's what we used for our server menu. We'll probably stick with that height. And let's do we did 128 for the title bar, so let's go like 96 pixels. And then let's start off with a vertical box. So we're going to throw a vertical box onto our canvas panel, and we are going to call this something like, we'll go options container, and we want this to be a variable. So we're going to use it as a container for whatever we want to put in here, because this is going to be modular and procedural, I guess you could call it. Then inside of it, let's add an overlay, just like so. And we want everything like so. We also want it to set to fill. And then we also want, oh, I've got this totally wrong. We don't need the canvas panel, so let's cut those, delete the canvas panel, and paste like so. There we go, that's much better. And so in the overlay, let's do the same as before. Let's add an image, inside of the overlay, which we are going to call the background, and we're going to make sure it's not a variable because it doesn't need to be. Then let's add a horizontal box. We're going to need to start working horizontally into the overlay. And we want it to fill like so. And we want to add another horizontal box into it. since it's so that it's not part of the overlay, but we can still work horizontally. And we want to set this to fill at a full 1, just like so, easy enough. And then let's simply just add a text block, and this is going to be whatever our option will be labeled. So let's first of all change its color to black so we can read it, and we're going to want it perfectly centered, and we're going to want to we're going to want it horizontally aligned fill and vertically centered, and we're going to want it filled. Let's give it some padding. We want left padding, maybe 8, maybe 10 pixels. We'll see what it looks like. And let's make this much larger so it fills this up almost all the way, or all the way. So I'm thinking, let's go 40, 42 looks good. And yeah, just like that should work, I believe. We got our padding there. Maybe we can go a little bit further. We'll do like 12 again. Now we need some way to actually set this. So let's go into our graph. I'm going to save before I get too far. And we need to simply create a variable for our for our our choice here, and that is actually going to come all the way from our buttons base, since that is going to be a button in the end, our menu options. So let's go to its graph and let's add a variable, and we're going to call this BlenderTek. Yeah, since we won't be doing more than one at once. So let's go button text, and this will be of course of type text. We want it to be editable and exposed on spawn because we'll be creating widgets, and so we want to set what value that is. And other than that, it should be totally fine. So I'm going to compile and save this, and that will change everything here. It'll inherit it. So now we can go and we can bind to button text. Like so. I'm going to just put a placeholder here. I'm going to call button option or button choice here, something like that. So your whatever text we end up using will end up going in there. Now let's go ahead and add one more horizontal box into our horizontal box here, like so, I believe. Yeah. And we want to set it to fill to use up the rest of the room. And we're gonna want text in the middle of it. That text is gonna be whatever choice we actually have selected. So let's set this to center and center. Let's set it to fill. And oh, I added a text box. I just want text, my bad, into the horizontal box. Let's do that again. So fill, center, center. We don't know, it might be no text, so we're just going to leave it as completely empty. And let's set it at the same size. So we set this to 42. So let's set this to 42, like so. We want it to be centered, and that should do it. Now all we need to do is create a function to set that text. So let's take text, bind, create binding, and let's rename this as something like get choice text for selected option. Yeah, that'll work. We want it to be pure. It's by default it will be. And what we want to do, we need an array get, and we want to plug that into our return value. So it's going to want an integer and text array. So let's create our text array first. Let's create a variable. This is going to be we'll go menu choices, and this will be of type text, and it'll be an array. It will be editable, and we want to give it at least one default value. So let's compile, save while we're at it, and let's give it one default value. Or just go nothing. So that'll be its default value. So then we can plug that right into the array get. And we also need an integer for whichever one is selected. So let's create a new variable of type integer, which we will call choice. Oh, I'm totally spelling choice wrong, aren't I? No. Choice selected. That will be an integer non-array, and its values are fine just like that. It can have a default of 0. So we can plug that into there. So this just handles the menus options based on choices array and an index for which one is selected currently. Perfect. All right, we'll compile and save. So that is now bound. And then let's add a image to our options container, and let's set it to fill, and we want, let's see here, like 0.1, something like that. And let's just set its color and opacity to black for now. We're not doing anything too fancy. We could create some bindings for this later, and we probably will, so that everything looks and works nicely, but I'm not going to worry about it too much for now. The background I am going to set, however, to our one of our colors. I'm just going to choose kind of a random color for now. The only thing we need to add is we need left and right options for our choices. I'm not gonna go through the time of making nice little arrows right now, so I'm just gonna make it simple. So let's just simply go and yeah, this will be a part of button basis. So let's right click, let's create user interface widget, and we'll call this widget underscore arrow base. Save everything, open that one up, and we want this one to be a custom size. We went with a height of 96, so let's do 96 squared. And inside of here, we're going to delete the canvas panel. We're going to create an overlay, and then, like I said, I'm not going to do images right now, so let's just do simple text, and we'll just do something like that, and we'll set it to horizontally fill and vertically fill, line in the center, and we'll just up the size, I think, and then we'll set it to black as well. I think that will work just fine for our needs, if I'm not mistaken. And we also want to reparent this, so reparent to our buttons base. So compile and save, because when we do all of the gamepad and keyboard support, we want all of these to be selectable with a gamepad and keyboard as well as the mouse. So by having this inheritance, it's going to make it a lot easier. So all we need to do now is go back to our menu options, and inside of our horizontal box here, we could almost call this something like our options scroller, but whatever, we'll just leave it for now. Let's go to user created. Let's get our arrow base. Let's add one above and one below. I'm just gonna copy and paste it. Oh, that didn't even make it in there. I want that to be in there. There we go. And so we have one pointing to the right, and we obviously want one for back. So let's take the transform and let's just rotate it 180 degrees. That's gonna mess it up a little bit. I guess we could just go like vertically align fill. That should fix it. Or maybe not. Well, I'm not too worried about it right now. We will fix that up another day, when we actually have the time for it, to put a proper image in there. So that should be that for now. Yeah, so let's go back to our server list. Let's compile, save, let's save everything. Let's go back to our server list. So now in our vertical box, and this is going to be all of our filters. So let's call this server filters. And so now we just want to start adding some. So we're going to want LAN versus Steam as one. So let's go to our user created and let's add a widget menu options. And we'll drop it right in there. And that is quite large. Anyways, so what we want to do with this first one is we want to give it, let's give it a name so we can differentiate. So this will be LAN versus Steam, I guess we could call it, or something like that, just so that it's we know what it is. And then our menu choices and our text. So our text will be LAN, and so this will appear when we actually create it. And we're gonna want two choices. We'll go yes, or we'll go LAN will be an option and Steam will be the other option. So we could maybe, so that's not so confusing, we could call this local servers. And so that'll show up here, local servers, and then the player can choose between LAN or Steam. Of course, you could add more if you wanted. So let's add another one into our filters, and whoops, not modular button child, widget menu options. And this one is going to be, let's go dedicated servers. So button text will go dedicated servers only. We'll give it two options again. We'll say no. I will say yes. Simple enough. Now the way these will work is they will be their visibility will be set or unset based on whether those options are needed or not. Let's add one more. Pretty standard for FPS or third-person shooter games, which would be empty server filter. So button text, empty servers only. Choices, no and yes. Easy enough. Alright. Let's turn off the bottom two for now, just so that we only have one there. And let's go ahead and we need to set the visibility for these. So LAN versus Steam will always be there, but the other ones we want to set the visibility. So let's go bind, create binding, and this is going to be get visibility advanced options. So this will be if we have advanced options set for our server list. So if we're going to have regular or advanced, we're obviously going to need a way to choose between them. So let's create a variable called b show advanced options, just like so. Will be totally fine. And we want to take that variable, bring it in as a getter, and then we want to take the return value here and do a select. and that will be our index obviously, and true will be hit test invisible, and false will be collapsed. So if we're not looking for advanced options like dedicated servers or empty servers, they won't show up. If we are, they will. Simple enough, just like that. So we'll do that for the empty server filter as well. We'll bind the visibility to that after I compile and save. So that one's bound, and then bind. There we go. Perfect. So we'll compile, save everything. Next up, so that's our filters. Next we want all the info for our servers. So let's start with a size box in our vertical box. Oops, not a uniform grid panel. I think we should make this bigger, like double it up, 2048 by like 1600. That'll make it look a little bit better. Alright, so this size box, all we want to do is set its height, override. So we did 128 up here, we did 96 here, so let's do 96 again. And let's do an overlay again. And then we're gonna want a background, so let's do another image into the overlay, and we're obviously gonna want to set that to fill, and let's give it a color. Just again kind of randomly choosing here. I think I'm gonna pick the header color. And let's what else? Yeah, we're gonna want one more image inside of our overlay. Where are you? And this one, however, is going to be set to horizontally align fill and vertically align bottom. And then we're going to set its color and opacity to black. So that'll work just like the separator there that we kind of faked. So after that, let's add a horizontal box into our overlay. So we could almost call this size box here. We could call this like size box. We could just call this details or info text. That's what we'll call it. Size box info text. Good enough. So the first thing we're gonna add is a checkbox, which we'll later replace with something else, and this will be for dedicated servers. So we'll add that into our horizontal box, and let's set it to vertically and horizontally line center, or what it, yeah, that should be all right. We want it unchecked, and let's see here. Where is our horizontal box here? We need to set that to fill. Much better. And we're gonna want to give it some padding on the bottom. So let's go to our padding. Bottom, 16 pixels, 24 pixels, 32 pixels. There we go. That fits. We could probably scale this down. Actually, we could scale it along the Y like 0.5 and then translate it down 8 pixels. Then take our horizontal box and go back to 16 pixels. Play with it some more if you want it nice and equal. I want to scale this checkbox up, but that's always a pain in the butt, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. I'm going to give it left padding of 16 pixels or so, Like I said, we'll replace that later with something a little bit easier, but let's add some text. So let's just go like text. And let's copy. Well, first of all, let's set it to, we're gonna want some padding. Let's go like 16 pixels of padding, maybe even more, 32. And we want it to be centered. And since we're on a fairly light background, let's set it to black. And we're gonna want a bit bigger size. Let's go 36. I think that will work just fine. So let's set it to fill. And then we can just copy that basically for everything we're gonna need here. So the first one is going to be the server name. So we're gonna, actually this one isn't gonna be a placeholder, it's just gonna be there. So this will be server name. Then let's copy, paste. This one is going to be game mode. And let's copy, paste. This one is going to be players, so that'll be like 3 out of 4 or 16 out of 32 or whatever. And then we want server ping, like so. And we're gonna want to adjust all of these, like we want the ping to go all the way to the edge, something like, oops, not that much. Something like so. Same with players. Go like 0.125. 0.125. It'll take some playing around with. I think that will probably work just fine. We need one more. I totally forgot. Game mode here. Let's copy and paste one in. And let's bring it in to, this is going to be the map that the server is currently playing. Yeah, that'll be pretty important too. Let's set this one to like 0.8. Set this one to like 0.8. Set the padding maybe to 16. Maybe go 0.6. Yeah, I like that. 0.6. That'll work for now. Good enough. I'm happy with that. And then we need, what do we need? We're gonna need a size box inside of our vertical box again. So let's find a size box. There you are. Put that into our vertical box. Get rid of title bar, filters, info text. So this is going to be a size box server list. So this is going to be where the actual servers are shown. So let's, we want a max height. So if our height is 1600, let's just guess and give it like 800. Because like I said, you usually don't see anything smaller than 600 by 800. So I'm just gonna give it a random value like so, and the rest should be totally fine. It does need a visibility setup on it though, which we can do after we add a scroll box into it. And this scroll box is going to be scroll box Serverlist container, and that needs to be a variable obviously because that's where we're going to add all our servers. Let's go back to size box Serverlist and visibility, and let's bind create binding, and basically we don't want to show it if there's no servers, but we do want to show it if there is servers. So let's do this as get server listing visibility. Good enough for me. So yeah, let's do a select again, and we want our scroll box serverless container, and we just want to check if it has any children. Does this scroll box have any children? If it does, we need it to be visible. If it doesn't, there's no reason to show it, so it'll be collapsed. So let's compile and save everything while we're at it. Next up, let's add a box if there is no servers. So let's add another size box. These size boxes are gonna become very important when we go to create all these widgets as 3D widgets. So let's give it a height override, same as the other ones. Let's go 96. And again, let's do the same height, 800. We want it to fill the same amount of area. And inside of it, let's add an overlay. And let's call this, since we're just doing that with the rest of them, this will be size box. No servers found. Oops, not a safe zone, an overlay. And inside of this overlay, we want just a background image and text, basically. So let's add, where are we, an image and text. So as usual, this will be vertically aligned center and horizontally aligned fill. This will be something like 42. It'll be black. It's gonna be no server, not caps, no servers found, like so. And we're gonna want that, actually we can align text center like so. I think that'll work just fine. And then we want to take our image and just set it to fill and pick a nice color. Let's go kind of blue. Let's go very desaturated, but make it still fit the scheme. Just like so. This one needs visibility too. So let's go to visibility, bind, create binding. And this is going to be for when no servers are found. So there is going to be, we're going to need a little bit more advanced setup here. So where are we? Get visibility 0. So this is going to be get no servers found visible. Actually, let's go box visibility or container or whatever you want to call it. And let's do a select. And we're going to need to create a custom function for this called, or no, sorry, we don't need one because we can just reuse it. We want the get server listing visibility. Yeah, so basically if there is servers, we don't need to show this. If there isn't, we want to show it. So we're just reusing that functionality again. So all we want to do is plug that into there. So visible will be collapsed. So if this is visible, this one will be collapsed basically, and vice versa. Visible, hidden is going to be visible. Hit test invisible will be collapsed, and self hit test visible will collapse. So compile and save. So those will always be the inverse of each other, no matter what, since it's basically hard coded in there, if you will. And then we're just gonna need a refresh and back button. So we're gonna set that up so it's reusable as well, so that we can use the same setup just like we set this up. We're going to do that for the buttons as well to finish this off. So let's add one more size box into our vertical box. And this one is going to be our size box main buttons. Or we could just go size box refresh back buttons. And we want it to be vertically aligned topped because it's going to be at the bottom. And we want a height override 96 again, just like the rest of them. The only one that's going to be bigger again is the title bar. We'll make sure we set that bigger. Yeah, 128. I feel it should be a little bit bigger. 156, like I originally thought. Anyways, so what we need to do here is add something that we haven't created yet. So it won't be fully functional yet. Let's compile save, but let's go into our button base and let's create a new user interface widget. It's gonna be a widget underscore buttons bar. Actually, I'm gonna call it buttons bar base. Let's open that up. And all we need to do is delete the canvas panel and add a horizontal box, since all buttons will be horizontal. Like so. And so that we can share functionality, we want to reparent this one as well to our menu base. So compile and save that so you can see its parent class again. So let's go into the graph. We're going to have quite a bit of functionality to do in here, but it's going to save us a lot of time in the end. So let's create some variables first of all. The first one's going to be buttons text. So this will be the text for however many buttons we have set up in our bar. So this will be a text array. We want it to be editable and exposed on spawn when we create it. That way, again, we can set its values, and it doesn't need any default values. Let's add a variable called buttons color. This is just going to be a linear color. Doesn't need to be an array, obviously. And let's compile, save. Let's give it a default value. We're going with the blue. Let's go really light blue here. And obviously, I want the alpha to be up. Perfect. We're gonna need a class for our buttons. So let's add a buttons class. And this is gonna be our W buttons base reference. Actually, sorry, that should be W buttons base class, and then it should be, no, it doesn't need to be an array. And then we need to go back to our designer, take our horizontal box here, and this is going to be our button container, and let's make sure that's a variable. So compile, save, that'll be all our variables there. We're gonna want an event dispatcher called on button pressed, and it's gonna have one input, which is gonna be an integer, which is gonna be button child index. So which button was pressed? I think we might have attempted to do this one in a previous video. If so, I apologize for basically redoing stuff. So on event initial event, come on, where are you? Event override. Nope. What we need to do is we need to go to our parent class, our menu base. Where are you? menu base, there we are. And we need to set up a custom event. So let's go to the graph, event graph, and let's add a custom event called init panel. So this will be called when a panel is initialized, that is based off of this parent class. And all we want to do is an array clear, and we just want to clear whatever we have focused. So what we need to do is create a structure. So I'm not going to go fully into the ins and outs of right now, but for now let's just create a blueprint interface, which we'll call BPI. I want to call it gamepad keyboard focus, but we'll just call it BPI focus. And we need to create a structure called S underscore, we'll go focus child info. Let's open that up. And so we want a boolean, which will be B captures nav. So that'll be, does this whatever the menu base is, whatever is being built off of that, is it capturing the navigation of the user or not? And then we also want our BPI focus, and this will be our widget to focus. So let's save that. Let's go back here, and all we need to do now is create a variable called focus, just focus array, which will be the S underscore focus child info, and it needs to be an array, and then we can just simply plug it into our clear here. So all this does is we're overriding all child classes will override this this event, and all menu initialization will be put there. We also want to add make sure parents init panel is called first. So compile, save. This will make more sense once we actually do some stuff with it. So what we want to do, this should come up now. Compile. So we should be able to do init. So yeah, we want to add event. There we go, event init panel, and then we want to do init panel. No. So then we're going to do a super. So all we need to do is right click and add call to parent function. A little known trick that a lot of people don't know about. So basically it's going to do whatever happens in our base class. So now we need to create our buttons. So we need to do a for each loop, turn on context sensitive again, plug that in. We're going to want our buttons text as our array. And so for each one, we need to create a button, which we haven't created yet. So I actually realized I screwed something up. This buttons class should be W buttons base, not buttons bar base, but buttons base class. And then we need to create buttons base, yeah. And then we need to set a button class, which we only have buttons bar base. We need to create one for menu buttons. So I'm just gonna save everything. Let's go back to our buttons base. Actually, this is more of a menu base. So let's right click, user interface, widget blueprint. This is gonna be W underscore menu buttons. Open that up. And so inside of here, we'll just create the bare setup really quickly. Like I said, we won't get too much into the functionality yet. So let's start with a vertical box. This one will be really quick, like so. And then we just simply need an overlay. Oh yeah, we also need a custom size. We're gonna want to use the same 1024 by 96 that we've been using. Whoops. Come on. 9.6. Oh, it looks like 9.5. I see. Okay, so then we need an overlay, which we want to set to fill. And then we want a background image. So this will be background. Set that to fill. I'm gonna leave it white for now, because we're gonna set up a whole way to so that the colors change when they're focused and stuff. So we'll deal with that later. Then let's add a scale box into our overlay like so, and set it to fill. Let's see here. Oh, not a scroll box, a scale box. Set that to fill, and we want stretch direction only down, and scale to fit. Yep, that should be all good. Then in our scale box, we want to add a horizontal box because we need to work horizontally, obviously, and we want to set that to horizontally align fill, but align in the center. And then we just simply need our text in our horizontal box, and we can't see it, so let's set that to black. And we need to reparent this to buttons base. So file, reparent blueprint to widget buttons base, compile, save, and then we can bind that to button text. So this will just be menu button. And we want to give this some decent padding. We want like 8.242 or something, pretty standard. And then we want to change its size. We're using like 42, I think. And we want it aligned to left and center. So that should be it. And then just like we've been doing with the rest of them, let's give it a little image in our overlay, I think. No, in our vertical box actually. And we want this to fill, and we want it to be black. And we went 0.1 last time. That was pretty big, but I think it'll work just fine. So let's compile and save that. So we have that ready now. So we can go back to our buttons bar base. So now we can set our actual class. So if we compile, there it is. So we want menu buttons. So in our loop body, all we want to do is create widget. Into the class, plug our buttons class. The owning player needs to be get owning player. So we want to do a get owning player. And the button text is going to be whatever the button for this loop is. So just plug that right into there. Perfect. And then we need to take the return value and we need to set it up in our container. So let's take our button container and we want to add a child. Plug that in there. The return value just plugs right in. And we're gonna need to do stuff with this, so I'm gonna rewrite it down just to keep it clean. Bring that up. But what we need to do also is take this and cast to horizontal box slot up here. Leave enough room for an execution wire, and then we want to set size off of this. Set size like so. And the size we want to set it to is filled. So what we do is we take size and we make one. So a value of 1 with a rule of fill. So basically like creating a widget just manually. And this is all procedural, so like I said, this will pay off in the end in saved times. Next, what we need to do is we need to bind event to on button press. So when this button is pressed, we need to create event, and we want to go to self. Target is gonna plug in like so. No. Oh, I see, we haven't created that in there yet because we don't have a bind event. So what we need to do is go back to our buttons base, and that means that we forgot an event dispatcher. So let's add it. So we need on button pressed, and again it'll have an integer, which will be child index. Make that clear, button child index. While we're here, we might as well add another one which will come in when we do the gamepad and keyboard stuff, which will be on focused. So let's compile and save this base class. Or is it gonna crash on me? Nope, we're good. Save. Alright, so we can go back now, and now we should be able to remake this bind event to on button pressed. So what we're doing is we're binding the event on the button's base, and we're gonna bind it to this on buttons pressed. So compile that. We're gonna have to do that again. So create event, self, and of course it's going to be a bugger. And I realize why it's not working, because it's a custom event, not an event dispatch, but we still needed that. So let's create a custom event, which is going to be on button bar press. So this is our button bar base. When one of these buttons are pressed, all we do is call on button pressed. So just call, and it needs an index. So create a new integer, which is going to be our it'll be our button index. Plug that into there. Compile. We'll still get that error, but now we can do that. So that should be exactly what we need, and then we can let's move this over first of all. Keep everything nice and tidy. And then let's reroute this again. And we want to set color. Okay, let's take button color. We want to set color. We need to go back to our buttons base. We just don't have enough. I didn't create all the variables yet, and there's a lot that we're gonna need, but one of the most important ones will be what color is it gonna be. So we're gonna need just normal color. So that'll be of type linear color. It'll be editable, obviously, and let's give it a default value. Our buttons are white with black text once it compiles due to all the child classes, so let's just make it white or near white with an alpha of 1 if it doesn't crash. So an alpha of 1. Come on. Just hate how that bug still isn't fixed. There, that should work. So we'll compile. Again, it'll take a minute because of all of the parent classes. We'll save. Let's go back to here. And then we want to actually drag off this. And we want to set normal color. And then plug our buttons color into there, like so. So that'll set the looks for it. And we don't have, yes, we don't have the stuff for the gamepad and whatever set up yet, so I'm just gonna leave a reroute note, which is gonna be add focusable widget to array here to do. So that'll be part of our blueprint interface that'll allow us to have gamepad and keyboard support. So that is the most important stuff for now. I'm just gonna comment this, add a button for each button text index, and then bind the button press events to be forwarded using inheritance to anything listening to w underscore buttons bar base, aka self. Alright. And this just handles the forwarding to any child class listening. Alrighty, let's put that in there nice and neat. I'm gonna leave it off there for now, but we will continue working on this widget wizardry in another episode, because we got a long ways to go. We got the serverlist finished at least. Well, not completely. We do need to add our widget. Let's finish that off. Widget buttons bar base goes into the size box, and then we'll add 2 elements, which would be refresh and cancel, like that basically. but that'll be for another day to finish off. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, and we will continue working on it another day, because doing widgets for a long time makes me tired. I need to get back in the swing of things after being on vacation for a while. So thanks for watching from a team here at UnrealTek, a division of BlenderTek.com. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it, subscribe. As well, we also take donations or on social media, and links on your screen. If you dislike this video, let us know. So we'll see you next time. Remember, create your way.